Hello, hello. This is a first for me. I have a fellow podcaster, Cory Connors, who has been in this world of podcasting and sustainable packaging from way longer than me. Cory, your podcast is called Sustainable Packaging Podcast, and of course, I'm also excited to talk to you about your packaging background and your work with Orora Packaging and others. But thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show.
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be here.
Great. And of course, I forgot to mention we are fellow Portlanders. So that's another common thread.
The
But
great
yeah, let's start.
Northwest. Yeah.
I know. Let's start on about things that we could not find about you, which is where did you grow up? What influenced you to get into sustainable packaging? Give us a brief and spiel on that.
Yeah, great question. I grew up in the Northwest, in Portland, just outside in suburbia, Gladstone and Milwaukee, Oregon, Oak Grove area, for those who are familiar. And it taught me how to be aware of the environment. We spent a lot of times in the woods, and we had a forest right behind my house, and me and my two big brothers and little sister would run around in the woods and explore and appreciate our environment, and come home filthy dirty, and our parents were like, good job, you had a good day. We'll hose you off outside. But it was an honor to learn how to be sustainable here. We were the first state to have a deposit system. So when I went to California the first time and realized they didn't recycle cans, I was just blown away by that. Like, why don't you do that? So now, of course, that's changed for the better, but I think you just get used to being sustainable and being aware of things like recycling and the environment, and then you try to teach others about it. So that's what I'm here to do.
So it was definitely the Pacific Northwest that influenced you, but you also went into packaging pretty early on. What
Hmm.
our research showed was like literally high school or something. So how did that happen, and
Yeah.
why packaging? You could have gone into numerous sustainable domains.
Right. Well, it was kind of fell into a job at Weyerhaeuser, which was a corrugated mill, which is where I got my nickname Corrugated, which is kind of something I've actually trademarked now. But my cousin worked there, and he said, "Hey, man, this is a great place to work." I wasn't ready to go to college. I knew I wouldn't concentrate. I wouldn't do a good job there. So I said, "I'll just go work for a year full time, right out of high school." And I did. I spent a year full time at Weyerhaeuser making corrugated boxes, working on all the different machines, the corrugator, all the different flexo printing machines, die cutters, everything. So learned about all that stuff, and then spent the next 4 years after that in college, while working full time, but going to college part time, paying my way through with that money. So
And what did you get to study while you were working?
studied advertising and wanted to make commercials. So I have a degree in advertising management and marketing. And when I graduated from Portland State University, I no one was hiring. No, not a single advertising agency was hiring. So I went to a job fair at Portland State University, and Kent H. Landsberg had a booth there. And I thought, well, I know about packaging. I could do this for a little while. And 21 years later, I'm still there, and I love it. It's just an awesome company to work for and with. So,
Wow, I didn't realize you'd been there that long. And let's dig into the company. And since you've mentioned that,
yeah,
and is that the same as Aurora Packaging when you say
yeah.
Kent S
So,
something? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, Kent, Mr. Landsberg started the company out of his garage in California, and it's gone through several name changes and a merger and a demerger, and now we're back to our roots as Orora Packaging Solutions, which is Landsberg Aurora, or depends on who you talk to, but that's the name we go with. And people know about Landsberg still and appreciate that lineage, the history. But it's just a great company to work for and with. I'm honored to be a part of the team as the director of sustainable packaging.
And I hear that it's this is a pretty big packaging concern, and it's like
Mhm.
what we found out was 75 countries. That's like a lot of places. And so, what all do they do? What does it encompass? The whole packaging domain of Aurora.
Yeah, so we're about a $5 billion packaging company based out of Melbourne, Australia. And so we're the largest wine bottle manufacturer, the largest aluminum can manufacturer. We import 100% recycled paper from Australia, and we turn it into corrugated here in California in our own production facilities. We have a division called Aurora Visual, where we make point of purchase displays and signage, and it's very diverse. We are truly a one-stop shop of sustainable packaging. So we can, when you go to a box company, they're going to sell you a box. When you go to a packaging solutions provider like Aurora, we're going to provide you with the best solution for your concern.
And does it have to be sustainable, or is it a wider array of products as well?
Yeah, we certainly focus on sustainability and try to urge our customers to use more sustainable packaging. And we've had a flood of new customers recently because that's been our major focus, which has been exciting. People are concerned. They don't know what to do. They see these upcoming extended producer responsibility laws, and they say, "Oh my gosh, are we in trouble? Are we going to be ready for those laws? Is the packaging we're using going to be acceptable?" And I'm getting phone calls from very concerned packaging buyers and senior managers saying, "Hey, can you help us make sure we're going to be okay?" Because frankly, a lot of people aren't, and it's time now to look at what you're using and if it's going to be the right choice for the future.
And when you think about sectors, of course, you mentioned like boxes and box boards and corrugation, and of course, I love the name that you came up with. Corrugated is so, and I saw
Yeah.
at corrugated, and it was like, wow, he's really got that one really, really well, and I'm glad that you actually made sure that it belongs to you. But if we look at the sectors that Aurora is operating in, if you do a broad segregation by say percentage, what would it be? Would it be corrugation as the main one, or do you also do flexible packaging? Do you do rigid packagings, other rigid packagings?
Yeah.
How does that pie look like?
I don't know the exact percentages, but yes, corrugated is certainly our focus, at least in North America. Like I said, in Australia, glass, aluminum, paper, all kinds of materials. But for North America, for Aurora Packaging Solutions here, yes, corrugated, point of purchase displays, flexible packaging. We do a lot of primary packaging. We do all kinds of packaging except for hazardous materials. We won't work with that packaging. It's too many. There are too many people that are just specialized in that, so we let them do that.
Yeah, and but when you look at the providing packaging, is it all manufactured by Aurora, or is it also outsourced and collected, and the design and the solution comes from you, and then you sort of arrange it, or you might even use tollers? How does the system work? How is the supply chain?
Yeah, great point. We don't manufacture everything that we provide, which allows us to work with our partners globally to provide the right solution. A lot of companies don't have a distribution network. We have 70 locations in North America. We have 100 designers ready to provide the right solution for your item or your entire line of materials or products. So it becomes something that we can say, well, maybe this isn't going to be a corrugated solution. Maybe it's molded pulp. Maybe it's FlexiHex, which is our new exclusive material that we've partnered with them. Maybe it's Scotch Cushion Lock. Maybe that's the right material for this item to package it sustainably and safely.
And does it at all matter what needs to be packaged? Are you more focused on, if we look at another pie, is it more like food? Is it more, could it be cosmetics? Could it be e-commerce?
Yeah.
How does that pie look? And is there a focus there at all, or it is agnostic of that?
I think that's the best part is we get to work with all kinds of companies. I've never been bored here. Working with major national brands to small mom and pop startups. So we have the full spectrum from electronics to food to e-commerce. So we get to do all those things and really have been focused on custom packaging as of late, but we do also have a great line of stock packaging too.
And that sounds like a really challenging business to be in, because if you're going to do custom packaging, that probably means printing and then branding for the
Yep.
partner customer, and thinking about the size you guys are in terms of $5 billion is what you said. Trying to do these small batches, how challenging is that, and how do you make that work?
Yes, I learn something new every day is the answer to that. I'm researching, I'm learning from other mill reps or other salespeople or customer service, and they're teaching me. I'm a sponge every day. I'm learning new things. 26 years in this business, and I still feel like I'm just getting started. It's overwhelming. I'm working with a new one of our new rookies, and I'm trying to install all of my knowledge into his brain, and realizing how long I've been doing this and how much information I know and how much I still don't know. It's exciting. It's an honor to be a part of that kind of lineage. But to be able to sit down with a customer and have ideas for them is not easy, and it took me a long time. I was very thankful to have the knowledge of corrugated when I started as a rookie salesperson, because to be 22 and to look across the table at someone in their 40s and say, "I'm here to help you, sir," or "ma'am," and have them look back and say, "Come on, kid, yeah, right," But then I would start talking about corrugated and platen die presses and rotary, and this, at least he knows corrugated, So that helped me get by and helped me eventually succeed here.
And I'm sure while you're having these discussions, and especially since you're so widespread in terms of solutions, how do you work out the cost side? Because there'll always be that player who's only focused in that domain, and it could be that boxes is
Right.
your thing, but it could be somebody who is doing flexible packaging and is an expert in that.
Yeah.
How does the customer look at that, and how are you able to make the sale? And can you always compete on cost, or it's just the value that you bring to the table? How does that whole
Yeah.
transaction and interaction work?
Yeah, I would say we're always at least competitive. We're certainly not always going to be the lowest cost, but imagine having to call 10 vendors to follow up on all the different materials that you buy, versus imagine having to call one. So we become that one-stop shop where you can consolidate everything, have it in our warehouse where we hold it for you, deliver it just in time, so you're not stocking truckloads of material, and you're able to focus on production of your product and creation of what you sell. Let us handle packaging, and we'll bring it to you just in time, right when you need it.
Wow, that's a great offering. But I'm still intrigued on the idea of small batch sizes. How small can a
Mm.
batch be? If there's a small mom and pop shop that needs certain cartons printed in a certain uh,
Yeah.
branding, would you do that, or there has to be a minimum order size for you?
Yeah, I think with the onset of digital print, the minimums have kind of gone away. It's really awesome to see, whereas with flexographic printing, if you're not talking about 5,000 units, I'm just talking about kind of a normal, regular slotted container. If you're not talking about 2,500, 5,000, it's probably not going to make sense financially to do something custom. So we would then urge people into stock packaging, where you can dress that up using custom labels, custom tape, custom void fill products, custom inner packaging, things like that are printed with your logo and make that experience. We like to say at Orora, it's the promise of what's inside. And I think we're creating this anticipation where it's this opening experience that we try to provide.
And that probably comes from a strong design discipline. And how does that
Yeah.
work? I guess you said you have a bunch of, like you said, 100 designers. And
Hmm.
is that people who are actually looking at what the customer needs and designing their entire experience, the
Yeah.
final consumer's experience of unboxing and, of course, the boxing experience as well for the customer? Is that a whole suite of services that you guys provide, and does the design team play a big role in you having a special value add for the customer?
Yeah, we actually have a brand new sustainable packaging design lab that we are opening just in the next month or two, based out of San Jose, California, where we will be prototyping all the way down to the customer could say, could you 3D print this item for us? We're looking at maybe changing this way of doing things. It's going to be amazing. I cannot wait for these new potential capabilities. Our CMO Chris Bradley and our team has just totally they're absolutely changing the way we're going to do things for the better. So we're very strong now, but we'll be even stronger then and be able to have a more interactive experience. So we want to work with the consumer or the customer partner that we're working with and say, what are your goals? What are you trying to do? What's the look and feel you're going for here? Is high PCR content your number one priority? What's the goal here? Sometimes it's just, we want to save money. Okay, that's fine too. We can do that as well. Or we want to be the next Gucci or Coach, brand, and so we'll do very high-end packaging for that, while still keeping it as sustainable as possible.
Yeah, that I'm sure the customer really values that service. And you said, there's a wide
Yeah,
array of services. It could be a lower cost and it could be a
yeah.
higher kind of expensive design. And
Hmm.
that takes me really well, and I'm intrigued by the whole idea of your role, which is sustainable packaging. And of course, that's
Hmm.
where, our whole ethos comes in. Do you find that it is a challenge in two terms? And I'd love to hear your perspectives on this. One, of course, in terms of performance, because in the end, the role of a packaging is to protect what is inside, and the
Right.
customer wouldn't want to compromise on that. So finding the right substrate to be able to do that. And as soon
Hmm.
as you look for sustainable packaging, it's sort of everybody takes for granted that it's going to be more expensive. So, what
Hmm.
has your experience been with both of these ideas?
Yeah, that's an exciting part of this whole thing. Is that's really changed. When I first started talking about green packaging or environmentally friendly packaging, which is what we used to call it, remember? Before it was sustainable. with companies like Powell's Books, who where I learned how to do this. They taught me. Said, hey, that's not sustainable enough, or that's not green enough. We want something better. Keep looking, keep finding something that's easily recycled or made from recycled materials. So it wasn't an option. It wasn't like if you feel like it. It was, if you want to work with us, we're going to be this. This is our ethos. This is how we feel about the world. And so they were a real leader in the Northwest and in frankly in the USA. And I was fortunate to get to work with them as a young rep and learn from them. So it's an exciting part of this job.
And is that when you talk about Powell Books, is it mostly corrugation and cartons?
Yes. Yeah, they mostly craft papers and corrugated materials.
Yeah. So I want to dig deeper into other substrates because that's where corrugation has been there for such a long time, and yes, you can figure out recycled content, etc. But like we mentioned, things like you mentioned, even molded fiber or flexible packaging. If you
Right.
look at those, when you look at those, do you face any challenges at all when it comes to performance or cost, and how do you
Yeah.
work around that?
I like to say there's nothing sustainable about damaged product. So if it doesn't perform, you failed, and your intentions were great, and that's awesome, and thank you for trying. But if you're delivering something and it breaks, and your consumer has to ship it back, or then you have to ship another one, not only do you have packaging that's not performed well, but you've upset your customer, and they probably won't buy from you again, and that's bad for the bottom line. That's potentially going out of business. So we always start with performance and making sure that the materials will perform. We have customers reaching out to us wanting to down gauge their film for their primary item, or go to a monomaterial, or go to a compostable film. These are all things that are in the process, and we're working on them, and we're making great strides. But we're going to test them. We're going to make sure that they work. We're going to put them into a chamber to make sure that they don't pop. We're gonna drop test until it fails, to see what else could we do differently. Maybe we need another inch of corrugated. Maybe we need another layer of Scotch cushion lock. Whatever the case may be. We don't want to use materials because they sound sustainable or because they appear to be sustainable if they're going to fail on the shelf. And a lot of things need to be shelf stable for months, or sometimes more. And there are a lot of food deserts where you have to ship to, you're aware of this in India. It's not always easy to put something in a more sustainable package. If it needs plastic, it needs plastic. We're not there yet to be 100% plastic free, and I don't think that's our goal today. The goal is to reduce and to use the right material for the right product.
And what about the costing side? Say if a material was to work, say you
Mm-hmm.
had and just for the sake of it, a compostable flexi pack, and
Mm-hmm.
it worked, but it was 40% more expensive. Do you think it'll be a hard sell, or today the customer is ready for that 40%?
I think there's a lot of sticker shock with that, especially with compostables, because they're so new, and then we remind them of the lack of infrastructure for composting industrially. We're just not there yet. It's in process, and there's a lot of great strides, and that material can make a lot of sense for a lot of areas and for a lot of people. But you're right. there are very expensive alternatives, but then there's the flip side of that where there are huge cost savings. If you're going from imagine a truckload of polystyrene wine bottle packages. Um, they don't nest, they don't shrink, they don't, whereas something like FlexiHex, look at how small that is. It's tiny, and it does the same job, and it expands. Uh, so maybe this costs 5% more, but maybe it saves you 80% in your freight bill and your storage costs. So look at the full scope of doing business, and we want to look at that as a full solution.
Yeah, that's an interesting insight that you can't just look at price as such. You have to look at the
Right.
overall impact that it has.
Right.
So, Corey, you're so exposed to different domains in packaging. And of course, with your exposure towards meeting people through your podcast and other mediums, you have a full array of different materials and trends that are happening. Are there a few of these materials and trends that shout out to you? What are you most excited about? If you'd say let's take three things that you're most excited about in terms of trends or materials, what would come to your mind?
Yeah, I'm excited about all the new void fill options that are 100% post-consumer recycled material. Uh, they used to have the best the highest post-consumer recycled content in paper I saw before recently was 30%. And now there's 100% post-consumer recycled paper, like Scotch Cushion Lock, like FlexiHex. Like these materials are absolutely incredible because not only are they made from 100% recycled paper, they perform. And I think that's what we talked about before is if it doesn't perform, it's not sustainable. I don't care if it's made out of lawn clippings. It doesn't matter. If it doesn't work, it's you're just wasting time here. You're wasting space. But there are so many really, really cool things happening. I'm excited about using waste materials like wheatgrass and using those fibers, banana stalks, things like that are being turned into packaging materials or products. I'd love to see that, things that used to be garbage or like you say, good garbage are now being turned into something usable or reusable. And I think that's the third one is I really like the idea of reusable packaging. We're going back to the basics. We're going back to the concept of reusable milk containers, reusable soda bottles. Other countries like Mexico have been doing that for years and successfully. Why did we go away from that? Well, it's more convenient, right? But what if we make reusable very convenient? And I think that's where we're heading.
I just love the trends that you chose because they're just so different from each other in terms of recycle, reuse, and agro waste or waste material waste. I think it's just and I was definitely excited to hear what you were going to say, and you
Oh,
definitely
thank you.
you know uh, piqued that excitement a little more. Just from coming from my place of ignorance, what does and maybe some of the listeners may not know this. What does void fill mean? What does it stand for?
Oh, yeah, very simple. Just any packaging material that takes up space in a box. We call it blocking and bracing. You don't when you do the shake test, when you take a box and you literally shake it, and if it doesn't move, generally that's a good sign for a package. You don't want it to be able to build up that inertia when you drop it. So you want it to stop. You want it to be held tight. So that's important. You don't want a lot of void in the box.
Super. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
And I guess even things like bubble wrap and stuff would also do something like this. And of course, you showed me a paper version of a similar cushioning kind of system.
Right. Yes, and that used to be the old go-to was plastic bubble, and it was a great product for a long time, but frankly, it just doesn't get recycled very often. It's not easy to recycle today. Now, hopefully, that will change, but I think that's why a lot of people are changing to alternatives that are more sustainable, easier to recycle curbside, or to reuse. So that's been a really cool trend to watch.
Super. And this takes me well to recycling. And I spoke a lot about it to our common friend, Tom Zaki.
Yeah.
And he drilled a lot of sense into me. But when I grew up in the domain in India and grew up in looking at especially the pulp and paper industry, which in India is almost 80% recycled, and only
Wow.
about 14% comes from plantations, and that also social forestry, and about 6% comes from agro waste. But what I saw was two things, and this is where I love to pick your brains and how you think about this. What I would see is that typically most of the raw material would get collected, stacked, sorted in places like the United States or Europe. It would be transported all the way to a port in India, say the west of the country. It would then be taken inland, maybe even 1,000 kilometers.
Hmm.
It would use almost 60 to 70% of the energy and recover maybe 50% of the material, which was actually what we would call downcycled because, it's waste
Hmm.
material, you'll get mixed waste and, you would have to make the most of it. And then many times it would ship all the way back. And that
Right.
really baffled me. And
Hmm.
so, what do you think about this whole trend of recycling slash downcycling? And how do you, what would be an ideal situation for you when you think about recycled content?
Yeah. Great question. And yes, I'm a big fan of Tom Zaki. It's been an honor to get to speak with him a few times and at different events. And he's such a smart person. Certainly looked up to him for a long time. But you're exactly right. If you're shipping materials all over the world and just with intent of recycling, it doesn't always pan out. The life cycle analysis doesn't always make sense. So the point is we need to keep things local. It's just why we have 70 locations. We want people to buy get their packaging from the place that's closest to them. We want to manufacture the material where it's closest to them, and then we want the recycling facility to be as close to them as possible, and then convert it, sort it, and then turn it into a usable product as close to us as possible. So I think you're going to see more and more recycling facilities open, especially with the onset of extended producer responsibility. Things like polypropylene, things like polystyrene, if they're allowed to be used, they're going to be recycled locally, I think, and then turned into something that can be reused again, which is exciting. We need that. We absolutely have the capabilities of it. We just need more. We need more locations. We need more infrastructure for the material recycling facilities. And I think you're going to see that. You're going to see a huge boost in infrastructure for that globally, I hope. So I hope you're seeing that too. And I want to say India is certainly a leader, and we look to India to learn how to recycle paper, how to use this material multiple times. What you've been doing over there is incredible.
And Tom Zaki was definitely the one who scrubbed my brain on this whole idea of localization and how
Right.
TerraCycle is doing it. And of course, you mentioned reuse, and that was another trend that I'm sure you know Jocelyn and Bold Reuse and what they are doing in Portland area. And it was super
Yeah.
interesting to see that. But that would impact your business directly. How do you see that
Hmm.
idea of reuse, or do you see that blending into the solutions that you provide as well?
Yes, absolutely. We encourage it. We're working on reusable packaging options for our customers. We want to be a part of the solution. We don't want to hold back anyone who wants to go to a reusable scheme because they work if done correctly. Like you mentioned, Bold Reuse in Portland, they're amazing. I had them on the show, and great people doing great things. Think about it: if you go to a Blazer game or any event, any place where you're staying for a while, and you're having drinks or having food. Why would you use a single use when you could just refill something or put it into a reuse bin where it'll get cleaned? So it makes sense. It's the way to go.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. So, in passing, in the beginning, you said there are some papers that you import from Australia. Is that because
Mhm.
it's a little more special and you don't get it in the US? What is
Yep.
the logic for that? And I presume there is one with your great insight into the
Yep.
whole recycling trend as well. So, would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so we've increased our post-consumer recycled material percentage for our corrugated production in North America by 4% year over year. Now, I know that sounds like a small amount, but it's pretty dramatic for a company our size. And I think, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day about Amazon using ships in own container SIOC packaging. They shipped 3% of their materials, increased 3% last year. When you're shipping 6,000 packages a minute, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? So it's these numbers might sound minute and small, but when you look at the big picture, it's tons and tons and tons of paper and material that's been recovered through the post-industrial and post-consumer material.
And I presume you're still able to retain the quality aspects of the final
Yeah,
material, even using more post-consumer recycled paper.
exactly, and that's why we want to focus on that. As you know, looking at the performance, we have testing equipment that it must pass these tests. It must perform to a level that the customer expects, or we just won't use it.
Superb. And that, on that note, I'm going to segue a little because there's so many other
Hmm.
interesting aspects of your life. One
Thank
of
you.
it, we again have something in common. I saw that you are the Sustainable Packaging Ambassador at Ubuntu, and both Venki and Peter have been friends for a while. In fact, one of our brands, Chuck, was on their website right in the beginning when they started and we started engaging. And you must
Yep.
be knowing Sandeep Kulkarni, who's also on their board, and who was with ex PepsiCo, and
Hmm.
he's again been a sort of mentor. So how does that work, that role, and what role do you play there? I'm sure they get a lot of wisdom from your background onto
Oh, I
what they are
appreciate
doing.
it. Yeah, me and a couple of my, you know, partners, Adam Peak and Avelio Matos, we all worked with them for a while. It was kind of short-lived. It was just like a 6-month partnership where we tried to help them kind of understand where, how to promote it. But I'm a big fan of what they're doing, and it's a great site. It's a great resource for people looking for information about sustainable, not just packaging, but everything. Any sustainable concept, construction materials and just ways of living. It's really a cool company.
Yeah, for those of us those of the listeners who haven't heard of it, it's a pretty cool site, Ubuntu, Ubuntu, and Ubuntu.com. And yeah,
Hmm.
lots of, and they started with packaging, but they've really gone beyond that and gone into different sustainability kind of ideas as
Hmm.
well, which is fabulous to see. I agree with you. And of
Yeah.
course, uh, that the other segue I wanted to make was, of course, our common interest of meeting people in this domain. So, how did the
Hmm.
podcast happen? And you, just before we started, you said you've done 200 and some shows already, which is way, way, way beyond where I am right now. but would love to hear how you got into this idea and how did it evolve, and how has that whole process been?
Yeah, I honestly I didn't want to at first. I was overwhelmed at work in a good way. Lots of great projects going, and Avelio and Adam, who I mentioned before, encouraged me. They both had podcasts, and they said, "Hey, you should do one too about sustainable packaging because you talk about it all the time." And I said, "No, no, no." And then eventually I said, "Okay." And so my wife and I figured out how to do it, and uh, she encouraged me to continue to go, and it's just taken off. We just passed 55,000 downloads this week, which I never anticipated. But I'm so thankful to be a part of this community of sustainable packaging, influencers, if you will. And I really try to have people on that will add value to the network and people that are exciting to listen to. So
That's fun. That's amazing. 55,000 downloads is amazing for such
thank
a
you.
specific subject, right? It's sustainable packaging. So tell me more about who do you find to be the users, or not the users, listeners,
Yeah.
and what has that trend been like? Are they mostly people from the industry, or do you see people just from the general public interested in the environment and sustainable packaging? What's the general trend there?
It's honestly, it's very surprising. I'll get people that reach out to me that are school teachers and just enjoy, want to be stewards of the planet. And I'll get students, college students, and high school students, and it's mostly professionals from the packaging industry, buyers, designers, people like that who are interested. But it's been quite a journey from zero to that. It was a lot of work, thousands of hours of effort, and I'm thankful to my sponsors, Orora Packaging and 3M, Scotch, Cushion Lock, and Spec-Right. My three biggest sponsors, and I appreciate them. They're great people, and I'm honored to be a part of their team.
How long have you been at it?
It's been about 2.5 years now. Yeah.
And how many episodes were you mentioning exactly rather than my odd figure?
I just edited and recorded my 250th episode.
Wow. So you're releasing more than one a week.
Sometimes three a week. Yeah.
And this is, I have to still listen to it,
Yeah.
and I apologize for that. I was planning to listen
No.
to a few today, and I did not manage to, but I will tomorrow. and
No worries.
Your the format is much more short, is what I'm told, and
Hmm.
it is more. So mine gets to be, because I'm, again, like you, I'm from the packaging industry, and I get very, very excited about the geeky side of it, and it gets
Sure.
very science oriented, and and I love that. But I hear that you keep it more open to for listeners to be able to digest. So talk to me more about the
Yeah.
format, and how did you evolve this, and why did you think that this was the right fit?
I think I wanted to make it short enough to where you could listen on a trip, like around town, running errands, or a 20-minute treadmill session, or a half-hour workout. Things like that. I was thinking that people are going to listen to it while they're doing other things, and wanted to accommodate that process. That thought. Make it something that they could even listen to a couple episodes in a day, like you mentioned, and not feel like they're bored by the topic by the time it gets through. It's it can be like you said, very nuanced, very scientific. Topics. Some of them. Now, so on average, I would say they're about 25 minutes long.
And is there a certain, I know that you mentioned that there's a large amount of people, teachers and students who are listening to it, but is it targeted towards a certain kind of audience, or is it you try to make it more broad based?
Yeah, intentionally, I'm trying to make it so more people would be interested, because all consumers are involved with packaging. I think that's something we forget, is every consumer, every person that eats anything that's purchased has been a part of this system, and they need to be aware that pizza boxes are recyclable. They need to be aware that glass can be recycled. Things like this that maybe not everybody knows. Things that I take for granted because I go to things like Waste Expo and Pack Expo, and I'm learning these things from these experts who are brilliant people. But I'm just trying to, I get people reaching out all the time. Oh, I learned this. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Or I learned that you could do this, or you could reuse that. And it's pretty awesome. I feel honored to be a part of it.
And I thank you for the work you're doing, because this actually, everybody in the industry ultimately benefits from people knowing more about
Right.
packaging and how it works. But I also see that you are on a medium which I have no clue about, apart from hearing from my daughters, which is TikTok. How did
Yeah.
that work, and how does that help? And I hear you have almost 90,000 or over that followers on that.
Yeah. I was not into social media at all. I had a LinkedIn account, and that was it. I didn't have a Facebook or anything. And I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk just before the pandemic, and he said, tell people what you do, tell people about what you know, and it'll expand your network. You'll meet awesome people. You'll get to do new things, have great opportunities. And he was right. It took off. I went from zero to 50,000 followers in a very short time, like 9 months or something like that. And I had no idea how many people would be interested in sustainable packaging, and just trying to add value to those audiences and help them start their business. During the pandemic, thousands, tens of thousands of people started businesses. I would get contacted all the time. How do I package this candle sustainably? How do I package this sustainably? How can I make this so it's recyclable? And so I started posting those answers. And okay, if you had a candle, here's an idea. Here's how you could package it. And then I would post that, and it'd get 1,000 views. And I would say, "Whoa, 1,000 people cared about that." And then it got 10,000 views, and then in the 100, and then some of them millions of views. And it's overwhelming. It's an honor. I'm so thankful to have this platform, and I feel like this weight on my shoulders to do the right thing and show the right kinds of materials for people to use.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. And this will be a very difficult question, because since I do a podcast and I've just done a few episodes, and I could answer this, but I'm still hoping you would. What have been few of your favorite episodes slash,
Hmm.
I shouldn't say guests, because I think everybody is a favorite, but
Yeah.
have there been certain episodes which you really enjoyed and really gained from?
Oh yeah. You mentioned Tom Zaki before. I was the most nervous I'd ever been interviewing him, because I looked up to him for my whole career. I just was like, I'm interviewing somebody who I've just idolized and just learned so much from. But he is one of the coolest people ever. He's just like so down to earth, just so awesome to interview, and it was a great episode. I learned a lot. We talked about everything from worm poop to global recycling issues, and just incredible. So that was really fun. Interviewing Frederick Drew from Unilever was really amazing. He is a brilliant person. Interviewing Chris Bradley and Sam Bowie about the FlexiHex launch for Orora was really fun. That was just a few weeks ago. And because we got to, it was a celebration of 2 years of work. where Chris saw me use FlexiHex in a TikTok video, and drop a bottle of wine, and it survived. In a 10-foot drop, it survived.
Wow,
Uh,
that's amazing.
and then 2 years later, we have an exclusive partnership with this company. So that was like the fruition of this effort. It's really cool to be a part of that.
That's beautiful to hear. And in a way, it's much better that you were in awe of Tom Zaki and hence you were better prepared. I
Yeah,
did not know that much about Tom Zaki when I actually interviewed him, except, of course, I saw the TerraCycle label here and there, and I was like, okay. And you're right, he was brilliant. He just
oh
knew stuff, and it was an absolute brilliant episode for us as well to have
yeah,
Tom and learn from him so much. And
yeah,
actually, because I come from a jaded view on recycling in a way. So it was great for
yeah.
me to get that brain scrub and open my eyes to a different world.
That's a great point too, and we need to realize that. And this is something that's opened my eyes. I interviewed my friend Chandru from South Africa, and he put it into perspective. Like, hey, recycling is a luxury. Sustainability is a luxury over here. Most people are just trying to survive, and to have this, perspective of, and get to learn from people from all over the planet has been really fun and very humbling, honestly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. And that takes me towards the towards the end questions. And of course, yours is going to be a little bit more complex when we ask these questions because you don so many hats. so,
Sure.
so if you think about scaling, and that's something I always want to learn more about because the size of the challenge is so large, and I see that Aurora is doing things at a certain scale and changing things at a certain scale. But how do you see both these hats, at least in terms of your podcast? How do you see scaling that? And how do you see scaling sustainable packaging at Aurora? If you want to give numbers that this is where you want to be in 5 years, sure, or just
Yeah.
a concept on how you want to scale both of these areas that you're actively involved in.
Yeah, I think that's a good word to use, scale. And because I think that's been an issue in the past is we weren't ready. People weren't ready to change their packaging to a new material. And now all of a sudden we have the scale needed to bring the cost down. We've reached the tipping point on a lot of these solutions where all of a sudden, people are ordering truckloads of these materials that weren't before, and the costs are easier to attain. Frankly, which is exciting. It's the business is scaling. The business is responsibly scaling. Efficiencies with these issues with employment and hiring the right people to do the right jobs. What a lot of companies were doing was making their production processes more efficient. And so we interviewed Ryan Fox the other day on our other podcast, which is Packaging Today. That's every Monday morning at 7:30 PST on LinkedIn and YouTube. But we interviewed him, and he said things that used to take production facilities used to take 5 days to do something. Now it's 3 days because their equipment is more efficient. And he said, imagine that on a national and global scale of efficiency. So what's happening is they're able to reassign employees to do different things, which is great.
I'm going to repeat, I'm going to extend that question a little
Yeah,
bit more
sure.
so that I know. In terms of Aurora Packaging, you guys are already at $5 billion. Do you see
Hmm.
that significantly growing in the next few years? And in terms of, because you're already at scales, so even in
Yeah.
terms of podcast, you said 55,000 downloads. Do you see that increasing? So both of those, is there a number that you think it'll grow to, or at least in terms of percentages How do you
Yeah.
see that growing in, say, maybe a 5-year horizon?
Oh, absolutely. Our new president, Kelly Barlow, she's an incredible leader, and she was my one of my first bosses. So it's really neat to have somebody who it used to be my direct report run our company in here in North America. She's got a grand vision, and I think under her leadership and our senior team, we will grow, and we are growing. And I don't know the numbers exactly, but I do know that the intention is continued growth. We're hiring. If you're looking for a job, check out Orora Packaging Solutions. We're looking for sales reps and we don't just hire bodies. We hire people that are motivated to really make an impact and be a good partner to our customers. So it's a great company to work for and work with.
And in terms of the podcast, 55,000 already. Do you see that
Yeah.
going to 100,000 soon? How do you see
Oh
the
man,
podcast?
I'd be honored to get to that kind of a number. Yes, definitely. I think it's exponential. It used to be dozens a week. Now it's thousands a week, and that's I can't believe that. It's yeah. It will continue to grow. I think. I hope. Try to do my part to have exciting guests on and provide that value.
I hope so too. And that takes me well to the final question, and I'm really intrigued about how you're going to answer this one. What does good garbage mean to you?
Oh, good garbage is something that can be recycled, or it can be reused, it can be composted. It's something that will have a second life somehow. Will add value to the stream a second time.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Cory, for being on the
Yeah.
show. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing in terms of providing amazing packaging and sustainable solutions at scale. And of course, spreading the word, which helps all of us. And thank you for being on this show. And I'm excited to meet you in person once I'm back in Portland. Thank you so much for this time.
I look forward to that. Thank you, Ved. Really appreciate this. This has been fun.